So the first thing is going back. And there's a main differentiation between this navigation button because on Android on the left, it is a hardware button, and on iOS, it tends to be placed in the top left corner. Now, these two buttons, even though they both essentially navigate back, they actually work quite differently because on Android, the nav back button is a time-based navigation. So it will take you to the previous screen that you saw. Just like when you're on a website, when you click the back button, it'll take you to the previous web page. On Android, the nav back button takes you to the previous screen historically in time. But on iOS, the nav back button is not navigating back in time, but it's actually navigating up the hierarchy. So the equivalent would be, say if you went from the home page to a particular page, then from that page you navigated to another page on the same hierarchy. When you click the back button when you're on this page, instead of taking you back over here, the back button on iOS would take you up hierarchically, i.e. it would take you back to the parent screen or the home screen in this case. So it's really important to think about how you're going to design your app in terms of its navigation, taking into account these differences. Next is navigation. Now, we mentioned this briefly about tab bar controllers versus the hamburger menu. Now, the hamburger menu is so called because somebody thought that the three lines make it look like a hamburger. Now, you may or may not disagree, but essentially one of the most common ways that you'll see navigation occurring in Android apps is through these hamburger menus. And when you tap on them, a menu slides out and you can pick and choose which screens you want to go to. And on iOS, traditionally it's been done using a tab bar controller, which resides at the bottom, and it can only contain a maximum of 5 items, because otherwise it would be hard for the thumb to actually navigate it. Now, this brings up a point of contention because a lot of designers really hate this hamburger menu style, and with good reason, because with that button there, even though you know that the menu is accessible with just a single tap, as with all things human, when it's out of sight, it's out of mind, and users don't tend to think to look into it when they need a certain functionality. And so a lot of designers have gravitated to a slightly different design pattern for Android navigation. And instead, you see a lot of designers implementing something a bit like this, where you've got a tab bar. By swiping left or right, you can navigate between the different screens. An example of that is the Twitter app on Android. So have a look at that if you're interested in implementing this in your app.